this is my 10.10 tier list. We've done a tier list now for the past couple of patches, and we're going to keep in trend with doing that regardless of what happens each patch. Overall in 10.10, the tier list hasn't really effectively changed too much, I would say, but I've done a lot of placement movings, including between tier 5 and tier 3 this time. I've made generally in my tier list, I've treated tier 3 to tier 5 as basically champions that you probably shouldn't be paying at all. But I've made it fairer in those tiers, at least anyway, of better representation of where certain champions should be. Like, for example, I've moved Fiddlesticks from tier 4 to tier 5 because honestly nobody should be playing that at all. And I've moved like the Tom Kench out of tier 5 and into tier 4 because there are some cases where he is actually support viable. It's just not a huge amount anyway. So as you can see there above me, tier 5, we've still got things like the Ornn and the Jarvan and the Zoe and the kind of like, you know, basically borderline troll support picks. You wouldn't pick these in ranked. You shouldn't be picking these champions in ranked anyway. I feel like I should have need any explanation why. So if you do have a genuine question about anything in tier 5 or even in tier 4, then you're always welcome to let me know why they aren't viable. But just do know and trust me that they're not great at the moment. Some of the more extreme picks where people might go, why isn't so and so support viable? One of the ones you'll probably come across is I get asked a few times is Shaco. Shaco has a very niche hardcore community behind it in terms of the support. I think there's a couple of streamers that one trick it. What I always say is that if you're determined to one trick anything, you can usually get to at least diamond with it, no matter how off roll it is generally. But it's going to make your climb a lot more difficult than something that's going to be more meta. Vel'Koz I put in tier 4 as opposed to higher still, as because he is really good mid, but in terms of the support role, he still should not be touched. Annie got buffed this patch, but still shouldn't be considered in the support role as much. And Nico, people keep asking about her, but honestly, just don't waste your time with her. You're much better off playing. Basically, Zyra is the same thing, but safer. It's Nico's very irrelevant in that role, and honestly, in every role at the moment. Although she has been played a little bit as on hit, Nico on top lane. So I'll just move up to the tier 3. I think I made a few more adjustments up here. Yeah, this is looking a little bit more thicker than usual. So one of the things I want to highlight here, the Lux is still sitting at tier 3. She is expected to be getting a support buff for the next patch. So I'll evaluate that, you know, when that patch actually happens. At the moment, she's just a middle tier support. If you play a lot of mid lane and you get autofilled into support, or you want to move from mid to the support role and have a lot of mid lane experience of Lux, go for it. Is it going to be a good tool for you to help learn the lane? But she should get an okay buff in for next patch, which I don't know if it's going to push her to tier 2 or not. We're going to have to look at wait for more details for when that comes out in 10.11. Lulu, it's going to be an interesting one to look at things like Lulu and maybe even like the Zillion, because AD carries are looking to get buffed. Now, if AD carries get buffed, it does make certain champions stronger and certain champions weaker for the support role. So the stronger the AD carries, the harder the mage supports are to pull off because they're not as squishy and they're not as vulnerable in the laning phase, which is where AP carriers are looking to get ahead. So if AD carriers generally get stronger, AP mages will fall off slightly, and even some of the poke effect of enchanters will start to fall off there as well. So that's the kind of like the after effect of AD carry changes. On the flip side though, or the tanks because of the follow-up can be pretty nice still, because even with a little bit of extra HP that AD carries will get, it should still be a kill usually. And enchanters that do have a lot of buffs for AD carries will also be stronger, because they'll be alive longer and will get more shield rotations and heal rotations on them before they actually get to full, especially more in the early to mid game kind of stages of the game. Could help with a couple of tower dive situations as well. So that's the kind of situation we're looking at the very near future, if changes to AD carry aren't complete yet. Even if the AD carry heal buff, HP buff comes through, it's gonna take a full patch to get the correct analysis, like to analyze the situation and what AD carries are then coming through. So this is going off the knowledge of the current stuff that we have available to us right now on PBE, and the kind of win rates and how the champions are currently feeling from 10.9. So there's a little bit of guesswork here, but usually I'm pretty accurate, bar 1 or 2 champions on how accurate is tier list. And honestly, most of these champions in tier 3 plus are going to be stable anyway going into the next patch. So if you're looking to pick up a new support, definitely look at something at tier 2 and tier 1. But in tier 3, if you're a one-trick pony or someone coming in from like mid lane, for example, like with the Lux or the Xerath or the Zillion or the Morgana, or even the Maokai top as well, you can bring that into the bot lane role and generally do okay. And I would actually advise that just so that you learn the lane efficiently, because those champions are viable, and it gives you some familiar ground to work with instead of being like completely overwhelmed by a whole new role. So moving up to tier 2, the three adjustments here, I believe Leona, Taric, and Yuumi I've brought down. Taric is receiving some substantial mid-game onwards nerfs regarding his Bastion. The percent armor value is going down by quite a lot, which is going to make your AD carry squishier. They're quite big nerfs. I think Taric right now has, or in 10.9 had one of the highest support win rates, because he generally does really well into enemy tanks. And Taric is a very good pick with that, and also he probably has a high win rate as well because of Master Yi and Taric funnels. So that's probably why the Taric win rate is higher, because of the Master Yi duo queue that's been going on with boosted accounts, messing up that statistic slightly. Leona I've brought down slightly as well, is because I feel like her overall play rate and win rate has generally gone down a lot more from what it used to. I still think she's a really good tank, and I think if you're looking to play Leona, she's still a great option. But you know, playing tanks at the moment anyway, I'd say it's a little bit iffy. It's kind of weird in a way. If you look in if you watch pro play, a lot of the tanks and the AD carry saving champions are usually at the top, whereas in solo queue it's painting a big difference, in what's been taken in priority. And honestly, support's kind of generally always been like that. The other roles don't really change too much from pro play, but the support role is generally a lot different because of how each AD carry you get is different, and each jungler you get is different, and the interactions in each game are a lot different than what they're going to be in pro play. So that's why you see the support changes completely different from in pro play a lot of the time. Senna I've maintained at tier 2. I still think she's a great choice, and especially if you need AD on your team, she's the only champion that can facilitate your team in the support role for you. So very good pick in the right situation. Janna tier 2. I was thinking about pushing her up to tier 1. General statistics when I was looking at websites on win rates, her win rate is still maintaining pretty high. I had a tough time debating whether she should be tier 1 or tier 2. I think in terms of I think overall, I don't want to encourage too many people to play Janna. Not because, like, you know, for meme reasons, I don't enjoy playing her as much. I'll make that clear right now. I think there are more things involved with the other support champions to help influence your games, and I don't want to lead people down a road where they could end up playing really passively, which is not how you're really meant to play Janna, especially during the laning phase. And in effect, I don't want that to mess up people as they progress up the ladder, even though Janna's win rate is quite high. I would say that Janna, when she gets into the later stages of the ladder, like Plat Plus, bring Janna in, but I don't want to encourage too many people in the lower brackets to play her. So I think that was like the right decision making there. But she is pretty good at getting away the assassins. So if you actually have like no choice, if your last pick and you know you're up against 3-4 assassins, she would be a tier 1 pick in that instance. But I think in a lot of other cases as well, she can be actually in tier 3 as well. Especially in a lot of the 2v2 matchups, she has a hard time against a lot of the meta picks, like stuff like Nami, AP mages you can struggle against as well, which are much more common again in the AP mages for sure, much more common in the lower ELOs than they are in the high ELOs. So hopefully that clears things up a little bit here. Bard still tier 2, don't see as much of him in higher play, at least anyway, but he still has potential to carry, but the nerfs did definitely hit him as expected, but still a solid tier 2. Once again, high mechanical champion there. Wouldn't recommend for you to play unless you were Plat Plus. So that's another Plat Plus champion I'd recommend there. Yuumi was tier 1, but I put her down to tier 2. Pretty much identical issue to the Janna. Yuumi is really good in Diamond Plus right now, maybe Plat Plus. Below that, you are going to come with more issues where you're completely reliant on your team, and maybe even up to 2 people in low ELO to not just throw it, because if the person that you're on dies, you die, and then you give basically the enemy an extra 450 gold worth of value. I say 450 gold because your kill is worth 300 and your assist is also worth 150. So giving that amount of extra gold on top of the person that you're on is can be a massive problem. So if you don't have someone skilled to work with on bot side, and then maybe later on skilled wise to work on later on elsewhere, then that's the main issue that you're going to come across. But she's really good. I'd say she's actually borderline OP, absolutely tier 1 pick in Diamond Plus. But because of the overall grand scheme of things, how this tier list isn't broken up into ELO divisions, it's a tier 2 pick. But I mean, if you're adamant about playing Yuumi and one-tricking her in low ELO, it's possible. Might be a little bit grindier than some of the other stuff, but it is doable in the grand scheme of things. So tier 1, so we've changed the tier 1 up a little bit. I did finally decide to put Blitzcrank in tier 1 after keeping him in basically high tier 2 in my list for quite a long time. I was like coming to the conclusion that I've been permabanning Blitz in every single one of my games for so long now. Maybe he's actually good. So everyone is probably like, you know, knows the Blitzcrank is scary and low ELO and stuff like that. And the only people that are really playing Blitzcrank in high ELO are the ones that are the few people that come out of one-tricking him in low ELO and then at the top, they're now in like Diamond Plus and they're like amazing at them. And the risk of playing against him alone is insane. So yeah, Blitzcrank is a very scary pick, not just necessarily for yourself, but also for your AD carry. And it's a tilt pick, right? So if Blitzcrank gets a few good hooks in lane, tilts the AD carry, that could be your laning phase over very, very quickly. And you have the roaming potential as well on Blitzcrank if you wish to as well. So we've moved Soraka up as well, and Swain and Zyra up to tier 1 as well. I was actually analyzing a lot of win rate statistics for this one. Swain was always a very good pick for gold minus in terms of cheesing your way up in the ladder. But his win rate's actually not only just high in those elos up as well, but it's actually gone up from plat plus up. So I don't know if that's because there's more people one-tricking him, more people coming across him and discovering it and wanting to try it themselves out and doing well with it. But Swain has actually climbed back up to tier 1 after being tier 1 probably about 6 months ago, I think now. There was definitely a tier list that I did where I did put Swain at tier 1. So I've actually moved Swain up, and I think Swain overall out of every single champion here will probably give you the, if you only care about LP as in as quick as time as possible, Swain will do it for you, for sure. Another thing to brush over to here as well is that Zyra's, when talking about win rates, Zyra's win rates is also extremely high. So is Sona. Sona's win rates have been very high lately as well. You'll see some more Sona gameplay for sure up onto the YouTube channel as well. But both of those champions have had very high win rates as well. So Zyra's the best mage right now. Swain is like a mage, but also a tank and also a DPS, and he's a bit of everything at different stages of the game. Like he's definitely more DPS early and then more tank at around about when you get your Zhonyas and have your ulti. And a Rod of Ages, you're basically your front line around about level 10, 11. So those are the situations you're looking to play, like taking certain tier 1 picks here. Blitzcrank's your tank, hard engage. Sona, Nami, and Soraka. I didn't want to have so many enchanters in the tier 1 list. I wanted to like take some off because I generally like having a best tank for you guys to pick off in tier 1, a best mage, and a best enchanter. But honestly, those 3 enchanters are, with the Soraka buffs coming in right now when she was already pretty good in tier 2, an extra additional buff on that, I think we shall see a lot more play rate. I shouldn't complain, but I'm surprised that Soraka's actually getting a buff this patch because I don't think it's needed at all. So yeah, Soraka is now back to being potentially very, very good. We could even see a minor revert on the W, I'd imagine, maybe, but Nami is still very good even after the nerfs. There's a bit of misconception that the nerfs were like huge. I think there's been one instance where I felt the passive movement speed preventing me to get a kill in one of my games. But she is still a very good enchanter pick for sure. So if you do like playing Nami, then definitely stick with that. And you know, to go back onto Sona a little bit as well, we only briefly touched on her, but she's got very high win rates right now. Very good, very, very good in gold minus, due to the fact that she basically has very little mechanic play for you to learn. Very simple champion and a lot of reward for playing her as well. You don't have to be too crazy during the laning phase. It's all about like level 11 plus is where you get to the true potential of Sona and her heals and the spams that you get to do and the movement speed. So yeah, hopefully you guys can take something from this tier list and take it into your solo queue games or in your normals, and maybe learn 1 or 2 champions to try out in your games. What I'll do here is I'll take questions here from Twitch chat, and if anyone here, I'll take a few questions for Twitch chat, and if you guys have a question right now about this tier list, I'll answer them now. If you had any concerns or not sure, or if you think this tier list is perfect, let me know. Otherwise, don't forget to follow me and subscribe on the YouTube channel as well. We'll be doing another tier list like this every 2 weeks. Also, sticking still with 2 videos a day onto YouTube, so I hope you guys have been enjoying all the gameplay video footage I've been doing lately. And also the secondary YouTube channel is doing quite well as well. Almost a video every day there as well, with Final Fantasy 7 at the moment. And looking potentially to doing some Minecraft soon as well, which I'm a little bit nervous and excited for as well. So once we finish with Final Fantasy 7, that's the direction we'll be going into as well. Will I implement Volibear when he is released? I'll consider it. We know how the Fiddlesticks rework went for Fiddlesticks in terms of being support viable. We'll take a look at that when we come across that. So, why is Morgana so low in the tier list? I like that question. That one gets asked quite a lot. So Morgana win rate isn't particularly high at the moment. Champions that she usually interacts with in bot lane, like Caitlyn, are not played that often at all. In Gold Plus, Caitlyn play rate, at least on EU, is very low compared to champions like Aphelios, Misfortune, and Ezreal. Those three are like the top of the AD carry range right now. Her kit is okay, but it isn't that great unless the enemy team have a lot of physical champions and not much magic damage to pop off the spell shield. There are some extreme circumstances where she can be a viable pick still. Like if your first pick, she's an okay safe pick. She's an okay safe pick. She's not like something like Zyra that can pop off the shield off the Morgana. Nullifies the shield capacity of her as well, plus plants blocking the bindings and things like that. She can make the lane stale. She can neutralize stuff, but in the whole grand scheme of things, her ult is so stupid. She was due a rework, but they didn't. They decided they were going to rework her ulti, but they decided not to for whatever reason. The fact that someone so squishy has to take a Zhonya's and then walk into melee range of an entire team, usually having to have flash up in order to make a play off, is daft, to say the least. Unless they improve the effects of her going in or changing her ulti, unfortunately she's going to be staying the way she is. But yeah, that's why she's tier 3. She's too lackluster, very similar to Karma in a way. Like they're both pretty relevant during the laning phase, but after that they can quickly fall off unless certain conditions are met for the black shield not to get popped off so quickly. Why is Nautilus tier 3 when Blitzcrank is tier 1? Okay, so Blitzcrank firstly pulls a target directly into your team. So the gap there is of getting the kill and not getting a kill is much bigger just because of that. It's like almost a flash distance. It might even be a flash distance between like the target going on top of Blitzcrank compared to where Nautilus brings in. Secondly, Blitzcrank pops shields, which are quite popular right now on a lot of champions like Set and things like that, so that can be pretty valuable as well. Also, it's a big noob stomper as well. Nautilus is harder to play. It's much more predictable when he's going to go in and he has no way to gap close that, whereas Blitzcrank has a movement steroid. So he can, even though it's like as predictable as Blitzcrank going in, at least he can close that gap before making an urgent play. And you don't have to just hook straight away. You can get into range of knocking them up and then doing a silence and then a Q if you have to. Like, it's pretty good against Ezreal still. Because of that, a lot of Ezreals generally think as well that they can fully counter Blitzcrank, but if you let Blitzcrank get into range, you can actually screw over an Ezreal pretty nicely. So yeah, that's the reasoning for Nautilus. I would say in some cases Nautilus is still an okay pick, like with a Kaiser, but Kaiser at the moment is still not in a top tier of the champion. So you got to bear in mind that some of these support champions as well need to synergize with AD carriers that are also doing well. It's another reason why Rakan is quite low down as well, because even Rakan with a Xayah is pretty meh, because Xayah is still generally pretty meh when there's still things like Aphelios, Misfortune, Kalista, you know, all of these champion AD carries are, and like Ezreal, are better than that, so it's not worth forcing the bad synergizing move there. Does that make sense? Hopefully that makes okay sense. What do I think of Cho'Gath? Cho'Gath has too many mana issues to be support. That's why he's not even considered here. Karma at tier 3. Could I explain Bizzle? I briefly mentioned that with the Morgana. She's very good in lane. Mantra Q in lane is very good. Outside laning phase, she is legit terrible. The problem is that once she gets to mid game onwards, the Mantra Q damage doesn't do enough damage. The E movement speed is the best thing because the shield's really weak. So the E movement speed is the only thing that she provides. And the tether is, by the time that actually gets to tether anyone, like an assassin, you're already dead, or the person that you're trying to save is already dead. So yeah, basically you would be like a Mantra E bot where everyone just gets movement speed, but it's really meh and it doesn't last long enough as well. So honestly, mid game onwards to even help close up the game, she's pretty bad. But she is very good during the laning phase. Her numbers are good for laning. I think that's everything there that I want to answer. Well, do you think Aftershock Lux will be making a return? Don't think so. I don't think so. But I'd be happy to be proven wrong there. But I don't think we'll see an Aftershock Lux build unless they maybe change Aftershock again. But I don't see that happening. Okay. I think we're gonna stop this video here. I hope that answers some of the concerns that some people may be having in regards to the tier list. Don't forget, this is my opinion on things. This is my perspective on solo queue while taking into consideration some win rates. I try and be as fair and balanced on this as much as possible. But generally, anything tier 3 plus, no matter what your ELO, is going to be fine. But you should look towards tier 2 to tier 1, no matter what your ELO is, unless specifically stated otherwise. So I hope that helps you out, and yeah, take care, and I'll do another tier list for 10.11 as well.